Everyone has heard of the Super Nintendo, but have you heard of the Super Famicom JR? Probably not, but it's exactly the same, just smaller and rarer. Well, I picked one up recently which does work, although it is in absolutely disgusting condition. It's in need of a restoration, and today we're going to have a go at doing that. Today marks a fairly special day for the retro future. In 2020 I wanted to change things up a little bit, and I'm going to start by making videos on home consoles. So this here is the Super Famicom JR. I've wanted this for quite some time. It's a fairly small revision of the regular Super Famicom or Super Nintendo entertainment system, but this is the Japanese version. So there was also a Super Famicom JR in America, probably Australia as well, but this is the Japanese version, the Super Famicom JR. And I really like it just because of how small it is. I picked this up for £50, and as you can see, it is very much in need of a restoration. It's incredibly yellowed. There's so much dirt and grime all over this thing. There's some sort of a cigarette stain or burn that we're going to have to maybe try and fix. But more specifically, I just wanted to get started and put my foot in the door with home consoles. So I'm not very familiar with the internals of this, and also retro brighting something on this scale is going to be slightly different. So I've picked up some of this liquid hydrogen peroxide, which is basically the same stuff as the salon cream that I usually use, except this is in a clear liquid form, so we can just pour it into a big bucket and add some water in there just to dilute it. Chuck it out in the sun. When the sun goes down, I'll put a UV lamp over it and we'll just see if we can get the shell back to mint pristine condition. So to take this apart, we're going to need a game bit screwdriver, which is a specific tool which mostly home consoles past the 2000s use. So you can pick them up really cheap on eBay, and they also take apart these games as well as the Game Boy games and a few other Nintendo games, except it's a slightly smaller bit to take those apart. But usually online it comes with this one and the smaller one, so you can pick them up fairly easily. What I love about these Japanese consoles is all of the Japanese writing on it. I think there's something really cool about Nintendo and having a Japanese version of something, because obviously Nintendo is a Japanese company and all these things came out in Japan first. So here we go. Do we just lift this top piece up? Yes, we do. Wow, the inside of it is absolutely revolting. Holy crap, that is rough. So yeah, I think it's fair to say this thing is in pretty disgusting condition. It was pretty temperamental when I first got it. It was actually sold as working, but it was incredibly temperamental when I first got it. So we're going to need to make sure that we scrub these pins here, which is where the cartridge obviously goes, with some IPA and a toothbrush, and make sure that we get it really nice and clean, so that we get sort of more reliability and stuff like that. So besides that, everything seems to be okay. It doesn't look like there's any sort of really bad internal damage. This RF shielding is slightly sort of rusted, but that's not really a big issue. So the next thing then to do is disassemble this a little bit further. So we can start by just unclipping the buttons, which is a fairly simple thing to do. We're going to need to retro bright these buttons as well. You can probably see that there, that they're actually slightly discolored on the top. So we're going to need to do that to both of them. Unscrew that. There we go, so there's our bay. We'll probably retro bright that as well. I'll just chuck that in because that has actually gone yellow over time. You can see inside it's super disgusting. There's loads of sort of dust in there and some stains from where something's probably spilt. So yeah, that will definitely need to be dunked in some hot soapy water first, scrubbed up clean, and then retro brightened. And then we've also got our little doors, which come out fairly easily. And there's little springs on there as well, so we'll need to make sure I don't lose those. That is our top shell completely off and ready to be honestly soaked in some hot soapy water for probably about 45 minutes to an hour, because that is rough. So disassembling this a little bit further will require all of these Phillips screws to come out, so I'll go ahead and speed through all of those. Right, that looks like all of the screws that I can see. So we should be able to lift that out. There we go. Okay, how neat is that? That is such a lovely little board. That is your Super Nintendo Junior. So this is obviously going to need to be thoroughly cleaned up. We should be able to remove this cart shielding. Here we go, yeah, so there's the RF shield off, and underneath everything seems to be okay. I'll go over that and give it a thorough clean with some isopropyl alcohol. Obviously we're going to need to clean up the power switch area as well, and the reset button, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. What we definitely need to do first is put all of these shell pieces in the bath, probably, because the sink isn't going to be big enough for this. Chuck a load of hot soapy water in there, let it set for a while, give it a scrub with a toothbrush just to get all of the remaining dirt off there, and then retro bright it. So firstly, I'm going to fill up my bath with some pretty warm water. Chuck a load of fairy liquid in there and give it a little wash around. I'll put the shells in and leave them for a little bit of time. After that, I'll give everything a scrub with an ultrasonic toothbrush. Because you've left it in there to soak, the dirt will come out a little bit easier. Obviously, this part is an incredibly satisfying process. It's important to give everything a scrub, even if it doesn't look immediately like it does need a scrub, because likelihood is it's had some really old bacteria that's sat on there for quite a while. I then proceeded to give everything a spray with some antibacterial spray. I discovered inside, which I thought looked yellow, was actually really dirty, so fortunately that all wiped off, which was quite nice. I thought somehow the sun had gotten inside. Next up, I took a plastic tub. This one was clear. I poured all of the hydrogen peroxide liquid into the plastic tub and then submerged the two pieces. I needed to make sure that they were going to be fully submerged. I chucked that outside in the sun, please ignore those. And then I put some cling film over the top. I then left that outside for about 6 hours. I turn my attention now to the motherboard. Using some isopropyl alcohol and the ultrasonic toothbrush did allow me to clean away all of the dirt. It's really important that the buttons are clean because you want those to have consistency and reliability, so drop some isopropyl alcohol into the switch and give them a little wiggle. Next up, I then scrubbed the entire motherboard with some isopropyl alcohol and the toothbrush just to get rid of that really disgusting dirt that had stuck down there. Removing this RF shield exposed the cartridge bay. It's really important to give this a scrub with some isopropyl alcohol to make sure that your cartridge is reading properly. Obviously it's sending data through these contacts, and if they're not clean, the data won't send properly. I then took a cartridge and gave that a clean as well, and put some isopropyl on the cartridge and moved it up and down in the cartridge bay. This just sort of further cleans deeply inside. I then finished up the rest of the console with a Q-tip and some more IPA. I plugged it all in just to make sure it still worked, and fortunately it did. After about 6 hours, the sun had pretty much gone down. It wasn't very hot outside and there wasn't a massive difference made to the shell. No one is actually sure exactly what will reverse the yellowing, but heat is apparently a potential factor. So I made an indoor box to continue the retrobrighting process. I basically just covered some clear boxes in tinfoil to allow the UV light to bounce around and get all angles of the shell. This is a nail hardener, a UV nail hardener. I cut out a slot in the top of the box where the hole was, masking it off with masking tape, which now I know why it's called masking tape. I then cut it out like some sort of Blue Peter show and made an absolute mess of it, to be honest with you, but I got there in the end, and this thing was really good. It actually did serve a fantastic purpose, which I'm definitely going to be using it for again in the future. So I tried two things. I filled up the container with some warm water and emptied 2 of the 40 volt Salon creams into the water, gave it a stir and chucked the shell in. I had to prop it down to make sure that it was fully submerged. I left this UV light on for another 4 hours or so before noticing that not a lot had actually changed. It is the next day, and I'm pretty happy with the results. I'm not gonna lie, it's not perfect. You can definitely immediately see, sorry about the squeaky chair, that the colours are not the same. What's basically happened is the bleach has bleached the plastic, and it's basically just lightened it. So it's not reversed the actual, damage. If you had a purple Game Boy Color, for example, and it had gone somewhat sun faded, it's not gonna bring it back to purple again. It's not magic. It's just gonna bleach it, so it eventually go to like a pinky, violety color. So not ideal, but there is no denying that there is a huge, huge improvement on it. After a little bit of thought, I'm actually gonna keep this little cigarette burn. I really like it. I think it's just super quirky that there's just a little cigarette burn on there, or some sort of burn anyway. I just have this idea of like all these Japanese people sitting around a TV. I'm gonna stop myself there before I go off on a tangent, but what we're gonna do now is reassemble it. So let's just go ahead and do that. Just the top piece to go back on now, and we are done. Wow. That is pretty smart. Boom. We are done. Look at that. Oh, that is very, very nice. I'm incredibly happy with that. It is far better than it looked when we started. Everything is clean, there's no dirt on it. The yellowing has somewhat gone away to a point where I'm very satisfied with it. I've decided I'm not going to get rid of the cigarette burn, as I said. And yeah, that is going to conclude this video. I really hope you have all enjoyed. Obviously, we know this thing works. I haven't done anything since we last tested it. So I'm now going to go off and play some Super Mario Kart. Very, very big thank you to everyone who's made it this far in the video. And a big shout out to Vapor95 for sending me this really cool hoodie. I like the pastel colours on it. I'll leave a link to their website in the description. They make loads of cool retro clothing. This is not sponsored. They just said, would you like some free clothes? Of course I said yes. I hate shopping. Yeah, so there we go. Super Famicom JR, first console repair of the year. Refurbishing, not really repair. Very happy with how it's turned out. Let me know what you think. I'd be really interested to hear. Do you think it looks better? Do you think it looks worse? Do you prefer all the yellowing? There's definitely, a difference, a big difference between when it started to where it is now. And it's certainly a difference that I am happy with. I wouldn't want to do any more to it. The plastic would run the risk of damaging it in a more permanent way. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.